Hello everyone. For the basic starting out graphing sine, cosine, and tangent, we start, as you can see, with sine. Looking at the unit circle, just going to reference the four corners to get the thing graphed. Okay, starting at 0, cosine is 0. Sorry, sine is 0. At 90 degrees, it's 1. So at 90 degrees, I'm up at 1. At 180, I'm back to 0. And at 270, I'm down at -1. And at 360, I'm back to 0 again. Now, the thing that I'm going to try and avoid is you guys drawing your graphs looking like this. That's not how they go. I guess as long as, well, I guess I got this here. Your graph is going to curve up to it. It's going to come down here. And do that. That's what your graph is going to look like. This is going to be repeated to the left. So think of it as you've gone -360 around. Your y value is 0. At -270, your y value is 1. At -180, you're back to 0. At -90, you're at -1. So your graph is going to curve. Whoops. Like this. Okay? We're not going to necessarily be focusing on plotting, the 30, the 45, the 60, and so on, because I'm not sure that that's valuable for helping you get these graphs done. I really want to emphasize again, guys, once you get those points on there, you're not doing this. Boink, boink, boink. It's not what your graphs look like. I mean, we're sketching these things. We're not plotting points. Okay, sketching means, yes, you're doing it freehand, but there's a limit to what I will be willing to accept for you guys as freehand. Okay? Cosine. Looking at the four corners again. At 0, your x value is 1. So this is the x-axis. This is the theta axis. At 0, you're at 1. At 90, you're at 0. At 180, you're at -1. At 270, you're back to 0, and at 360, you're back up to 1. If you want, you can go ahead and fill this out too. At -360, so you're going to rotate all the way around backwards, so your x value is back up at 1. At -270, so you're here, you're sitting at 0. -180, you're down at 1. Sorry, -1. At 90, you're 0, and at 0, you're back up to 1. So your graph is going to go like this. Whoops, missed. Okay. Things I want to point out. Cosine starts up, ends up. Sine starts down, ends down. That's one full period. Okay? One full period. The amplitude, which is this value right here, it's this distance right here, is always going to be measured positively. That amplitude is 1. Okay? I know I went down 1 unit here, but it's still measured positively. Its period, in this case, is from this peak to this peak. That distance that it takes to occur is, in this example, is 360 degrees. The period doesn't have to be 360. I'm just letting you know the parent graph, the initial graph, this is what it looks like. Okay? Same thing for sine. Its period's going to be 360. All right? For tangent, remember that tangent is y over x. Looking at those four corners that I was just referencing to do the other graphs, when you're at 0, that's 0 over 1, so it's 0. At 90, you're 1 over 0. So at 90, it's undefined. So whenever you're dividing by 0, you create a vertical asymptote. So there's a vertical asymptote at 90. At 180, that's going to be 0 over -1. So you're back at 0 again. At 270, you're going to be -1 over 0, so there's another vertical asymptote oops, at 270. At 360, you have the same thing as you were initially, so you're back at 0. Okay. Same thing's going to happen at negative 90. If I rotate 90 degrees down, you're back at this. That's undefined. So there's a vertical asymptote here. Negative 180, rotate over to here, you're going to be back at 0. Negative 270, that coordinate was, or sorry, the setup was 1 over 0. Sorry, I was hesitating there. And you're dividing by 0 again, so you have another vertical asymptote there. And at negative 360, you're back to this one, so you're back at 0 again. This distance in between here is the period for tangent, and you guys can see that that's 180 degrees apart. So the period for tangent is 180 degrees. For the parent unaltered tangent graph, the period is 180, whereas on these guys, the period was 360 degrees. Okay, so the period for tangent is 180. All right, I'm going to reference, let's clear this out, and I'll go for another unit circle to make stuff a little clearer. I'm going to look at these 45s because these will be easy to do. At 45 degrees, so right here, the numbers are the same. Square root of 2 over 2 over the square root of 2 over 2. So it's going to be worth 1. At 45 degrees, it's worth 1. Okay. Let's go negative 45 degrees. So down there. In this quadrant, you're plus, minus, but again, they're exactly the same numbers. You're going to be negative square root of 2 over square root of 2 over 2. That's going to be negative 1. So at negative 45, you're at negative 1. Okay. At 135 degrees, this quadrant goes minus plus. Again, they're exactly the same numbers, just like this. Instead of the negative being on top, it's on the bottom, so it's negative 1 again. So this one, you're at negative 1. At 225, right here, they're exactly the same numbers. They're both negative. So this ratio, this axis is y over x, is 1. At 315, so right here, sorry for that mark, 315. At 315, it goes plus minus, so the minus is going to be on top, so it's going to be a negative 1. Okay, that pattern, so find the center between the asymptotes. Half the distance to the left asymptote from the center, you're down at negative 1. Half the distance to the right, you're up at positive 1. So here, half the distance to the right, you're up at positive 1. Should get rid of that. Half the distance to the left asymptote from the center, you're down at negative 1. Half the distance to the right, you're up at positive 1. So here goes. This is what your graph is going to look like. Okay, this is going to be a little bit hard for me to draw on here. You're going to hug the asymptote. You're not doing it very well. Hugging the asymptote. You're going to come up as a curve. And you're going to curve. It shouldn't look so straight. It's hard for me to do with the stylus. I apologize. This is the shape I'm looking for. I'm looking for this shape. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Okay, it's hard to do on here. You're going to come up from the bottom. I shouldn't. Okay, this is looking awful. All right. Okay, and this one is just going to be coming up from the bottom. Okay, coming up from the bottom. This shouldn't be a straight line here. It should be a curve. Okay, again, it should be looking like this. It should be curving through it. Okay, I apologize for using the stylus on this size of scale. I'm having great difficulty drawing it. Okay, so that's what that is supposed to look like. So again, you found the asymptotes, the center between the asymptotes. So if you want me to clear this and do it again, this is the parent tangent graph. At 0, it's 0. 180, it's 0. 360, it's 0. Halfway between those are going to be vertical asymptotes. Halfway from the center to the right, you're up at 1. Halfway from the center to the left, you're down at negative 1. And that pattern repeats all the way across the graph. Halfway to the right, you're up at 1. Halfway to the left, you're down at -1. And you're 0 in the center. 0 in the center. Halfway to the right, you're up at 1. And then that lets you sketch out the whole graph. I guess I didn't do these ones. Okay. All right. And that lets you graph them. If you had negative tangent, the asymptotes are the same. The center points are the same. What switches are these two? So if you had negative tangent, to the left you'd be up at 1, to the right you'd be down at -1. So your tangent graph would flip this way. Okay. Going negative for sine, instead of starting going up, you'd start going down. Still at the center. This one's up at 1, so your graph would do this. Oops. Sorry, I missed it. That should be over here. I apologize. Okay. So that would be your graph. You're starting going down rather than starting by going up. And for negative cosine, instead of starting up, you're going to start down. And you'd end down. In the middle, you're halfway up. So your graph would go like this. Okay. So that's for these basic videos, or basic graphs. Then I'll go to the more specific ones in the next video.